Hello and welcome to Max Talks, and on this channel I like to talk about personal finance, job searching and personal development. So this week, I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a bit strapped for time, and rather than doing what every other channel ever does when they're strapped for time and can't think of new ideas and do a reaction video, I'm just going to do a my thoughts and experiences video. So this is going to be all about my experiences with job searching, including the failure of applying for jobs and not getting the jobs that you maybe think that you should get, as well as filled with a few different tips on how you can make your applications that bit better and make them stand out from the crowd. So let's get into it. What you may or may not know about me, and this is basically just going to be fairly impromptu off the top of my head. I haven't prepared too much for this video, so bear with me. The thing is, it can be really disheartening. You spend hours and hours on job applications and then you get rejected, and sometimes you don't even know that you've been rejected because companies maybe have outdated recruitment processes, or they don't have enough staff to deal with the recruitment process that they do have, or maybe yours just gets lost in the post somehow. Either way, the recruitment process is a difficult one, and I think for me this was most apparent when I was applying for a placement while I was at university, but also since then, since I've applied for a variety of different jobs, I think I've learned a lot over my kind of career, even though it's fairly short. And also in the job that I've just been doing, I've been kind of helping people get into work. So I think I'm talking from experience here. I'm not claiming to be, some sort of working expert, some person who's absolutely incredible and can get you a job just like that. New job. If only it was that easy, right? But I think I've had enough experience to be able to kind of share my experiences, and hopefully that you can learn from them too. So what is my experience? So basically, when I was applying for a placement for university, I started applying in about November, I want to say, of the academic year, with the aim that I would have a placement secured before the academic year ended in kind of June or July. So I started with about 7 months to spare applying for jobs. We had a university kind of placement website at the time, which if any of you are at university, then I'm sure you can relate. But equally, if you're not, then I guess it's similar to like Indeed or using a job searching site, but the only difference is that it's kind of only open to university students. So was browsing through the site, trying to find the best ones, the ones that I thought kind of matched my needs. At this stage, I wasn't really sure I wanted to do, and I guess that was part of the problem, is that I found it a lot more difficult to apply for the roles when, one, I think it was kind of tricky to understand exactly what the roles were. I think that's one of the big things. When you read like a job description, or when you read a person's specification, sometimes it goes so like over the top to sound better than it is, that it kind of takes away from your understanding of the role. So I think to be able to kind of apply for it and be able to do your best at the application, it's good to have a look at it. And what I found is that if I kind of broke it down into like its simpler elements, it made it easier for me to actually see, okay, would I be a good fit for that, or would I not be a good fit for that? But also, I think at the start, if I'm honest, I wasn't really kind of putting my all into the applications, and if I look back on them now, they are terrible. Like, the way that I'd written them was just so generic. It didn't really showcase my skills, it didn't highlight the experiences that I'd had, and at that point maybe I hadn't had that much experience, and so it was kind of difficult to write my job application with no experience whatsoever. But ironically, I think through the kind of process of failing, it enabled me to learn so that my next applications were better and better and better. And I think one of the most important things as well was the feedback element. I think some of the people that I've spoken to, if they get rejected from a job or if they don't hear back, they don't necessarily ask for feedback, or if they do ask for feedback and they don't hear anything, they don't kind of chase it up. But really, I mean, I think the feedback thing is one of the most important things, because at the end of the day, it's that information barrier. You know, you've sent off an application, you've submitted something, a document, presumably could be your CV or your cover letter, or it could just be an application form which you've sent out and filled in separately to the employer that you wanted to work for. And then if you're not able to get some feedback in return for why you weren't a good fit, how can you possibly learn going forwards? And I think that was one of the most important things. I mean, the worst thing that I ever did, this is really bad, don't ever do this by the way, was on my cover letter stating why I wanted to work for, you know, XYZ company. Because I'd used a template and I kind of edited the template and, you know, chopped and changed bits and bobs. On this particular cover letter that I sent to company XYZ, on the backs there was a paragraph of why I wanted to work for a different company. And that is so embarrassing to have sent off to an employer to represent yourself and to say, like, let me work for you, and then you do that. I mean, it's just not good at all and not very professional. But at the same time, like, I've learned from that and I've taken that on board, and now, you know, even though you might say, okay, that was stupid, but I've learned the whole attention to detail skill. I now know to read, double check, triple check through my work, make sure, you know, all of the information in there is right, but also, you know, checking there's not another paragraph added in somewhere, which, you know, if you're sending off loads of applications, that could be the case. And I think that kind of leads on to one of the other things that I learned is, like, to kind of do quality over quantity, or both actually. Because I know some people say, you know, oh, I've submitted like 500 applications this week. I mean, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but I have heard people say, like, I've submitted 100 or something in a week. And I'm just like, how can you possibly have submitted 100 quality applications in a week? There's just no way. I think for me, it obviously depends on the role and the company and what they're asking for. But if you have a detailed application form and it's a job that you really want to work for, there's no substitute for putting the time in, from what I've experienced anyway. And I think, you know, if it is, you know, one of the top kind of few that you're really interested in, spend the time doing it, because at the end of the day, you'll get that back. And if you don't, then hopefully you'll get feedback which will help you on the next one. I think if for me anyway, if I'm doing like a really detailed job application for a company that I'm very interested in, it would take hours and hours and hours, maybe even like a week, depending on what it is, to get the wording right, to check through it, to, you know, reduce the word count. I mean, this applies, I guess, to university essays or even like school or college essays as well. When you're doing those, you've got to check through it, make sure that it reads right, check the flow, not like a rap, you know. I mean, don't put in don't make it like a little rap on why you want to work for the company. I mean, you could get creative if you want, but I guess unless it's in that industry, then that might not be the most appropriate thing. So yeah, I think being rejected was one of the big things that I learned. And I was rejected over 50 times for different placements. 50 times. And many of those I never heard back from. And it is really disheartening, because at the time you feel like you've spent so much time and so much effort invested in applying. And I'm sure that many of you, if you're watching right now, can relate to that. If you're applying for jobs, if you're sat there at home, or, you know, you're struggling, you want to apply for as many as you can. You want to get yourself out of that hole, especially, you know, with the amount of competition that's out there. You have to make sure that your applications are quality to make them stand out, and that they sell yourself to the best of your ability. So, I mean, once you've done that, then you can go on to the next step. And I think as well, one of the things that I learned was to kind of ask myself why. If I didn't hear from an employer, or if I got rejected, then I would kind of read back through the application, read back through like the job description, the person specification. Okay, what can I do differently? What did I do well? And that really helps. And this is, I guess this is one of the quotable things. This is going to get like put on my gravestone or something. But just because you get rejected, it doesn't mean that you're not capable. It just means that you're not suitable. So what do I mean by that? So if you're not capable, you wouldn't have even got to where you are. You wouldn't have even like thought that you could apply, and you wouldn't have even been in the mix. Whereas if you're not suitable, that just means that the way that you think, the way that you operate, the kind of maybe values that you have doesn't necessarily fit in with that of the company that you're planning to work for. And that's quite a common thing, you know. Every company will have its own culture and its own values. So it's important, and they're not going to hire someone who doesn't fit in with them, because that's obviously one of their kind of key messages, you know. So again, I think that's another one of the important things. And if this is, by the way, if this is helpful at any point, please feel free to like the video. Consider subscribing. I do new videos every single Sunday, and hopefully I'm going to do something about this background. I've been meaning to get rid of it or change it up for a long time now. But yeah, I think certainly over that kind of long process of doing things, you don't, like, you can learn a lot from doing that and getting feedback. And also, actually, that's another thing. If you're able to get someone else that you know and someone whose opinion that you value to read it, maybe this is a family member, maybe this is a friend, maybe this is someone who works in a similar industry to the one that you're going into, ask them to have a read through the application and ask them to give you honest feedback. Because when you write something, or when you've done something, when you spend so long doing something, you think it's amazing. And especially if you've put your all into it, you think that it's perfect, and you kind of have like that bias towards yourself, which sounds weird and it sounds kind of cocky. But at the end of the day, on your application, you're bigging yourself up. You're making sure that you sound incredible and you sound like the best thing since sliced bread. But if you get someone else outside of the application, outside of your little bubble, your little circle, then they can give you that honest feedback that you need, which will help you. And I think for me, that was with my family. They really helped read through the applications and kind of sort me out and get me back on the right track when I was kind of wavering a bit. Because at the start, like, I was just flying off applications. I had the quantity over quality approach. I was just like, oh, you know what? Let's go on Indeed and let's go bang, 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 bang. Apply the CV, change a couple of words, and that was it. Whereas it needs to be a bit more tailored, especially for the companies that you really want to work for. Those ones are the ones that you need to take the time with. So I think those were the kind of main points, and I think as much as it is disheartening to get rejected, don't take it personally. No one ever kind of means it, you know, in a hurtful way. Or if a company doesn't get back to you, don't take it to heart, but make sure that you learn from the experience. Ask yourself, what can I do to make myself better? Get other people to read over it. Check over it again yourself afterwards, because even, you know, spending a bit, having some time away from it, and then coming back to it at a later date, you might think actually your opinions have changed or your thoughts have changed. So I think that would be my main advice, and those are the main things that I've kind of learned throughout that job application process. And I really hope that even if this is a bit like of a static video and I'm just kind of talking to a camera, I just want it to be honest, I want it to be impromptu, and I want it to be about my experiences. Because as much as I am fairly early on in my career, and I'm not acting like I'm the careers oracle and I'm not Jesus of employment. Wow, that would be a good job title. No, I'm not. I'm none of that. But I do think that the experiences that I've had, even though it's been a short period of time, I do think that they might be able to help someone. So if this has been helpful, please feel free to give it a like rating below. Let me know how you're getting on and what tips and tricks that you have as well. And every week on this channel, I like to do a comment of the week, where I kind of give a shout out to someone else who's kind of supported me, and that is SNS and the RV Cats this week. And they said this, which you can check out down below here somewhere. And if you wish to be featured in next week's video, comment the phrase chimney, because it's completely irrelevant from the video, and hopefully I'll see a few chimneys in the comments. Hashtag chimney gang in the comments. Anyways, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next Sunday.